Forrester. Forrester is a stalker who appears in Clear Sky. Forrester is an original resident of the Chernobyl area who lived there long before the 1986 incident in a village near Limansk. He made a living as a park ranger in the Wormwood Forest, currently Western Red Forest, alternating between tracking down poachers and guiding field trips. When the Chernobyl power plant exploded, he refused to be evacuated and stayed behind. After the second explosion at the station, he discovered his ability to sense and bypass anomalies. With the help of a compass artifact he found, he was able to escape from a space anomaly, something that stalkers cannot do. Forrester is also a technician, but he only does repairs. He resides in the tower of a shut-down mine on the outskirts of the Red Forest. Forrester is also known through the zone by his ability to find a safe passage and reach any part of the zone. He tells tales of himself venturing into a space anomaly where he found himself trapped. He says the zone itself granted him an artifact that allowed him to navigate out of the anomaly, in which he gave the artifact the name Compass. Unfortunately, he was mugged by a group of renegades, stealing his compass, and when S.T.A.L.K.E.R speaks to him to find access to Limansk, Forrester gives the mission to take back the artifact. With the compass returned, Forrest helped guide a group of mercenaries out of the space anomaly. After helping Forrester, S.T.A.L.K.E.R will be rewarded with an upgraded Vintar VS that, thanks to a bug, can be duped infinitely. Baird. Baird is the bartender and leader of S.T.A.L.K.E.R during the events of S.T.A.L.K.E.R Call of Pripyat. Baird runs an artifact trading business with clients outside of the zone. He was one of the first stalkers to arrive at Zayton, eventually establishing a camp and bar in the S.T.A.L.K.E.R with the help of Gruz, among others. Baird employs a number of stalkers for his business, namely a group of artifact hunters led by Crest and Sledgehammer, and a security detail led by Spartacus. He has been involved in a conflict with the local bandits leader, Sultan, who has been attempting to take over the S.T.A.L.K.E.R and Baird's business for some time. In spite of this, Baird also welcomes bandits aboard the ship, stating that not all of them are bad people. He also does not get along with Old, partly because of the latter having relations with Sultan bandits, but also because of Baird's monopoly on the artifact trade in Zayton. Baird is one of the 3 traders in Zayton, although he only sells consumables such as food and vodka, although his trade offer might be extended to include low-tier artifacts depending on the completion of certain side missions on the Stalker side. He will also warn the player about incoming missions when in Zayton. Baird offers various missions on aiding the Stalkers in Zayton, some of which branch out into more missions, and ultimately lead to gaining the achievement One of Ours. If the player completes enough of them, most of the missions given by Baird can be countered by taking one from Sultan, which puts the player on the opposite side of the mission for profit. Baird can also give the player missions to find specific artifacts he needs. The player will be given a period of time to find the artifact, and if the artifact is not found in time, another Stalker in the zone will find it, and the player will have the option to buy it off the Stalker or trade a high-end shooter for it before they make it to S.T.A.L.K.E.R and give it to Baird. Alternatively, if the player is an avid anomaly diver, they can gather artifacts and return to Baird to ask which artifact he needs. He'll pay a hefty fee if the player has it immediately available, and the player won't have to worry about completion from Baird's artifact hunters. He will stop asking for artifacts if 2 of his artifact squads are killed. If the player decides to side with Sultan and obtain the boss achievement instead, Baird will no longer offer his artifact hunting missions and changes his dialogue accordingly. Instead, the player can demand a payment once per day. If this is not collected, especially if the player is not in the area, it will accumulate. Wolf. Wolf is the head of the Rookie Camp, an old stalker planning to bail out. Wolf takes care of rookie stalkers at the Rookie Village in the Cordon. He plans to get out of the zone one day, but never makes it out, since there is always something holding him back, either in a mission or a military raid. He has several right-hand men, including Petruha. He also has a brother named Hound, who is also a stalker. Wolf is found in the Rookie Village at the beginning of the game. After the player takes Sidorich mission to rescue Nimble from bandits, he will provide the player his starting loadout, including a hunting knife, a PMM pistol, along with ammunition for it, and he will point the player towards Petrua and his squad. If the player talks again after rescuing Nimble, he will give the player a jellyfish artifact. After bringing the documents from Lab X18 to Barkeep, Wolf will vanish from the village. According to Fanatic, he got a message from a stalker passing by, packing his things, along with a box of dynamite, and went off, leaving Fanatic in charge. After that, Wolf can be found at the Crooked Beam in the army warehouses, along with Smartass, Father Theodore, and possibly Master, or random loners in case the named stalkers were killed. If spoken to, he will muse about possibly joining Freedom. He cannot provide missions at this point and will remain at the camp for the rest of the game. Fun fact, after he moves to the Crooked Beam, game, he is almost guaranteed to be found dead in the central campfire. This due to a well-known error in the game spawning system, which has a tendency of spawning wolf directly on top of the fire. Sometimes he will not be found dead but injured, and one may help him by giving him a medkit. But this is fairly pointless, since upon the player's return to the army warehouses, he'll be injured again or dead. This can be averted if Smartass is dead by the time Wolf reaches the army warehouses. After that, he will be standing at Smartass's position, sparing him from the campfire. Wild Napper. Wild Napper is a veteran loner that settled down in the flea market in the northern part of the garbage. His friendly and peaceful nature has resulted him in becoming something of a leader of the diggers based of the flea market. He is however quite cynical as well, believing the digger life is terrible and constantly saying life is horrible. Also, he takes care of business relations between stalkers. He can usually be found at the flea market sitting by the fire. When S.T.A.L.K.E.R first talks to Wild Napper will tell S.T.A.L.K.E.R to leave him alone, talking about how terrible life is. However, he can give a quest with the objective to find a PDA belonging to Freshie with money stashed digitally. When arriving to the camp, it will be found that Freshie and the rest of the diggers are dead. Upon delivery of the PDA, Napper mentions that he still desperately needs 2,000 rubles and that he has a special medkit which he is willing to sell for the exact amount. Should the player agree to purchase the medkit, Napper will then hand out a quest which involves bringing the 2,000 rubles to Stingro, who is preparing to buy weapons from a seller to arm Wild Napper's men. However, as the whole deal turns out to be a setup, an ambush by Stingro, who was a mole for the bandits, the money never gets delivered, which means the player gets to keep both the cash and the special first aid kit. Stingro is still in possession of the PDA of the smuggler who he had sold out to the bandits. This allows Wild Napper to find the weapon coordinates. Subsequently, Wild Napper reveals that the loners needed the new weapons for a raid on the concentration camp. He believes they needed something to motivate them, a symbol to show them that the bandits aren't invincible, so they stop being afraid. If the prisoners in the camp have not been released, Napper will give the task to free them, rallying up his men and attacking the camp. However, if the player has previously cleaned out the concentration camp, Wild Napper will merely mention attacking it, and the player has a dialogue option telling of having already liberated the slaves. After the liberation of the concentration camp, he will come out around to realizing that life isn't such a bad thing. If you choose to side with the bandits, Yoga's final mission has S.T.A.L.K.E.R assault the flea market with multiple squads of bandits under his command. Wild Napper will rally his men and defend his camp there, so he will have to be fought and killed, along with the rest of the population there. If you wish to complete the bandit questline, seeing as Wild Napper will fight until death, this would be your choice. After the fight, S.T.A.L.K.E.R will be accepted to the bandit faction. After the fight with Wild Napper, Yoga will barely pay you anything, and if you request anything more, he will give you coordinates to a stash located in a Psy field filled with anomaly. Orest. Orest is the leader of a stalker group in Agroprom. Orest has always been a traveler and thrill seeker of sorts. When he was a 10-year-old, he once stowed away in a freighter bound for China to learn Shaolin martial arts. However, they got caught 3 days later, and after that, his dad gave him a thrashing. When he got older, he traveled around Europe. When the zone appeared, he met a girl named Leska, who was also a thrill seeker like him. She thought they were only friends, but Orest felt something more than that. Eventually, she went missing, and when Orest heard that she entered the zone, he immediately packed his things, took a pistol, and went to the zone to search for her. Thanks to his experience as a traveler, he managed to enter the zone, and for months, roamed it, showing everyone Leska's picture, until one of them told him that some international troops apprehended her before reaching the zone, which he eventually assaulted to teach him a lesson. Afterwards, he decided to stay in the zone. Orest believes the stalkers shouldn't kill each other because of their beliefs, and that they should all live off the zone in peace. He stayed with Freedom for a long time, but abandoned them once he heard about their attacks on duty. He is the leader of the Stalkers in the abandoned complex in the vicinity of the Agroprom Research Institute. They are constantly besieged by bandits who manage to slip through the duty outposts. Also, mutants attack their base on a common basis after digging their way out of the Agroprom underground. If you approach Orest, he can give you missions to destroy bandit camps or mutant layers. Father Valerian. Father Valerian is the leader of the Free Stalkers in Cordon during the events of S.T.A.L.K.E.R Clear Sky. Father Valerian has been in the exclusion zone since the 2000s and originally made a living salvaging scrap found in it. When the zone initially appeared, his group was spooked but continued on with their lives. Everything changed when they found their first artifact, and in his own words, it was worth its weight in gold. Sometime before 2011, he took the leadership of the Free Stalkers in Cordon with the objective of expanding the Free Stalker's control to the entirety of the cordon and the garbage. With that in mind, he concluded a deal with Major S.T.A.L.K.E.R, the commander of the local military checkpoint, to allow safe passage of merchandise through the outpost and obtain information in exchange for money. However, S.T.A.L.K.E.R eventually betrayed the Free Stalkers when he began selling information about the Stalkers to the bandits, which prompted Valerian and his Stalkers to kidnap the mayor and hold him hostage at the Stalkers base. Father Valerian can be found in the Loner's main base in the cordon. The player is guided towards Valerian by Sidorich, who is looking for loot that was taken from him in the midst of a confrontation between the Free Stalkers and the bandits, hoping that interrogating S.T.A.L.K.E.R would eventually reveal the location of the goods. S.T.A.L.K.E.R, however, refuses to disclose the location of the goods, prompting Valerian to suggest to the player to eliminate two of S.T.A.L.K.E.'s subordinates and their respective squads, so that the mayor can be backed into a corner and forced to reveal the location of Sidorich items. After this is done, the player can ask Valerian to join the Free Stalkers and partake in the faction war against the bandits.